Earlier this year, towards the end of February, I created a video reviewing the demo of an upcoming indie game called Hyper Team Recon. I went over what the demo had to offer in terms of story and gameplay, my opinions on them, as well as shed a bit of light on the creator and their endeavors. Well, fast forward to September 23rd, and surprise! The full game was officially released and is available for all of us to play. Unless you happen to take a glance in the Nintendo eShop and notice that its release date was actually already listed. In which case, the surprise probably just came from the fact that Nintendo opted to show its release date a week before it was actually launched. So, with the full game now in our hands, I figured it'd be a good time to follow up on my video of the demo and essentially make a full review of the game with all of my thoughts, praises, and criticisms put into one video. Now, because this is essentially a sequel of sorts to my previous video regarding this game, I think it'd be good to quickly recap my thoughts on the demo and what I was looking forward to in the full release. I said that the demo was a lot of fun, and that it provided a fair amount of things for you to do between solving puzzles, collecting goodies, and generally exploring the world available to you to move the plot forward. I was in love with the characters, especially Ember, and felt that the story was palatable despite only having 2 chapters to its name. I stated that there was plenty of potential for this gameplay loop and its story to be expanded upon in pleasant and satisfying ways. So now that the full game is available, did I think that this game succeeded in meeting my expectations? Well, you're about to find out right now. Before we begin though, I'd like to give a quick warning to any of you who are interested in playing the game or are currently playing through it. There will be spoilers ahead for this game's story. The game is still new, and I'd really hate to ruin the mystery for anyone who is currently enjoying the experience and has no idea what to expect. So just be warned, there will be spoilers ahead. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into the full release of Hyper Team Recon. Let's first start talking about this game by going through its entire narrative, because clearly that's what everyone cares about, right? This game is split into 10 individual chapters, including one very brief tutorial section with Herb that's basically the prologue to the game. So, let me weave you the tale of the cute slime creatures. Our story starts in outer space, as many sci-fi works do. Specifically, we begin on the Isle mothership. The Isles are currently on a mission to find a habitable planet to live on after they were driven off their previous home by overpowering invaders. They eventually discover the planet Earth and plan to send reconnaissance troops to scout the planet to confirm whether it's suitable for Isle life or not. But before that, we need to see how the Weed Isle, also known as Herb, is doing. Herb is a green Isle AI, whose primary function is to analyze data sent to him through transmissions from the recon troops. He receives his first transmission from Ember, a red Isle designated as one of the recon troops who will be sent to Earth on a mission to transmit data and footage of the planet's surface to determine its potential for hospitality. Something something Ember had a dream about Earth that's basically just a tutorial level, something something Ember is so cute and is clearly best girl, oh my god, I love her. Alongside Ember is a blue Isle named Penny, and the two of them work together to reach the quarters of the Isle commander. But not before giving a big robot the ol' 1-2. Once there, the two are introduced to the third and final recon troop for this mission, Light, a yellow Isle who will be serving as the leader of the group. After they depart though, Ember falls asleep at the wheel of their spaceship, because clearly that girl spent all of her energy on making sure the metal pipe sound got into this game, and causes it to collide with a meteor above the surface of Earth, sending the 3 girls plummeting down to the surface in 3 different directions, as well as destroying their ship. Waking up in an Arctic area, Ember realizes that she ended up crashing the ship, and walks the land in an attempt to find her fellow Isles as well as a way to fix her ship. But after trekking for so long, she eventually passes out from exhaustion as well as the comforting warmth of her burning ship parts. A mysterious figure approaches her and ponders on how to bring everything back to the bar before the transmission ends. Afterwards, we cut to a transmission from Light, who was found and dragged onto a beach shore by a jellyfish mage named Tidal. Along the way, Light runs into a reptilian humanoid named Allie, who attempts to impede her progress twice, but is quickly defeated by Light in their big confrontation. After the battle though, Queen Tatera steps in and arrests both Light and Tidal, leaving their fates unknown for the time being. And of course, we can't forget about Penny, whose transmission opens with her being stuck in chocolate. A frog-like humanoid named Sweet helps her out though, and the two work together to search for a piece of the ship that fell from the sky. They are given information from King Frog, who tells them that if they defeat Venaria, the source of the thorny vines all throughout this confection country, they will likely be able to get their ship part back. They do such, but then Sweet does, well, this. However, it's not all disaster, as the ship's drone tracking device was found in the process. And so, Penny and Sweet start their long travel to search for Light and Ember with the device. We return to Ember, who has essentially been kidnapped and forced to live out her worst nightmare. Working a 9 to 5! Oh, and I guess these guys called the Dusty Twins are looking for Nicola, the owner of the place. But these two are evil and kidnapped Nicola with the intent of making her work the 9 to 5 at their soda place. Ember chases after them and dons the best costume in the game before Nicola ultimately frees herself by sneezing out a bunch of soda and knocking the twins off the train. Nicola agrees to help Ember search for her friends and head to her factory to grab a machine that will help Ember in her efforts. After that, we get to see what Light has been up to all this time. As it turns out, she's become a prisoner. Except she's more than capable of breaking out once we switch to a 3D perspective. But it's not just Light who's being kept behind bars. Tons of innocent critters are also being held prisoner at the hands of Queen Tetera. Light decides that enough is enough, and confronts Queen Tetera in her Mecha Servitor. After destroying it and giving Tetera a big ol' punch, she surrenders and agrees to both free the critters, as well as scrap the robot and give Light some pieces of the ship back to her. We come back to Penny, who is still traveling with Sweet through the mountains to find Light and Ember. Along the way, they notice the thorny vines are back, so that means Venaria is back with a vengeance! Oh, sorry, I meant to say Moltenaria. Even Penny and Sweet acknowledge we can't be dead-naming the furious fire plant monster. The two of them have to trek through the volcano, all while avoiding Moltenaria's wrath, and after 3 consecutive bonks to the head with giant rocks, Moltenaria is seemingly gone for good. The two of them notice that the source of the signal on the device is coming from the beach, so they decide to head down to check it out. Ember and Nicola arrive at their stop and tell off the conductor crab in the funniest way possible. After scaring him straight, the two of them work their way towards Nicola's factory to find the device they need. But once they reach her office, Nicola accidentally swallows a soft mint delivered to her by those rotten Dusty Twins, which somehow turns her into God? She starts destroying her factory in an attempt to, I guess, kill Ember, but it doesn't end up working out, and the factory seemingly erupts with soda, sending them both flying into the sky and knocking Nicola out of her Super Saiyan trance. Back near the beach, Light, Tidal, and Queen Tetera are going through with their agreement from earlier. Tetera informs Light that more pieces of the ship might have fallen into the ocean, so Tidal bestows the Sonic 3 bubble shield onto Light, and they travel into the ocean. They hear about a concert being held by the famous DJ Pinsir, so they head to check it out. As it turns out, DJ Pinsir used the scrap metal that fell into the ocean to create the tech for her stage. And, well, we obviously can't have that, so Light decides it's a good idea to attack this innocent idol who's literally just trying to perform. But it's okay, because the fans loved it, and DJ Pinsir eventually decides to give the scrap metal to us for putting on a good show. After Light returns to the surface, she's eventually greeted by Ember's pair of falling legs. She lets the gay out a little bit before pulling Ember out of the sand. Soon after, Penny makes her way to the shore, and all 3 of the Recon Isles have been reunited. But wait, hold on a second, what's the Isle mothership doing so close? And why did the commander say he's claiming the planet? Turns out, the commander is a greedy little slime who likes to sell planets to the highest bidder after taking them over. Everything he said about their backstory was a lie he created to encourage the Recon Isles to do their best, only to use their findings as opportunities to cleanse it of its life. After that, he sells the planet to whoever will pay him the most. So the invaders, the mothership running out of power, the main trio supposedly being the last Recon Isles in the entire mothership, all of those were lies fabricated by the commander so he can get his money's worth from taking over planets. But, of course, he spilled all of this information to us willingly, so now we know he's evil, and we're gonna kick his ass for it. After taking on a gauntlet of newly created Celsius bots and Knackbots, as well as a quick run through the ship, we reach the commander's quarters to face off against him once and for all. He's got a huge mech suit, designed purposefully for his attempt to defeat the Recon Isles, but Herb tells us that we can destroy the generators around us to shut it down. We do so and make a mad dash out of the mothership onto the beach. The commander also managed to escape, but he gets rolled around like a ball into the sunset where he's likely to never be seen again. And with that, we've saved planet Earth and stopped the commander from being able to continue his nefarious schemes. The team looks into the drone one more time before eventually shutting it off, and the credits start to play. And yeah, that's basically the whole story of the game, albeit a little bit abridged. I thought it was a pretty nice story that kept me engaged all throughout. The incentive for most of the game to reunite with your partners and attempt to rebuild your ship is simple, but the three of them being split up into three separate areas allow them to interact with the characters around them and get to express themselves more to complete strangers, and eventually form friendships, which I found to be an enjoyable aspect of the plot. The twist that the commander is actually using the recon isles to take over and sell the planets he lands on is unique, but the fact that he basically spilled his entire plans to the character was kinda silly. I get that we're supposed to understand what his plans and motivations are, but I think it would have been smart of him to not, outright say he's evil to our protagonist's face. Seeing him get rolled away at the end after being defeated was pretty satisfying and funny at the same time. All in all, the story is pretty good. Is it the absolute most mind-blowing or in-depth story of all time? No, but I don't think it needs to be given what the game's aesthetic is about and the general silly vibe it gives off. And something that keeps me engaged with the game and wondering where the story will go from here gets a passing grade in my book. Moving on from the story, I'll quickly touch upon the characters. If it wasn't clear enough, the characters are all fantastic. Our main trio is the focus of the game, so it was a given that they'd end up with having likable personalities and characteristics. Ember is my clear favorite, but that's not to dismiss Penny or Light. Both of them are great characters. I just resonate with Ember more because she clearly has the Neptune DNA inside her, and that just makes me happy. Even the side characters get a bit of love. They're enjoyable, don't overstay their welcome, and they all provide their fair share of contribution to the plot to make them memorable in their own ways. I especially loved Nicola and her interactions with Ember. They're pretty funny and show that they're capable of bouncing off each other effectively. Herb did end up getting the shorter end of the stick, being the character you use exclusively for the hub and the scrapbook challenges, which I'll get to later, as well as briefly appearing at the beginning and end of chapters, which I think is unfortunate. I would have loved to see him interact with the group in a more direct way, and whatever dynamic could have formed between him and the main trio as a result of him being an AI. All of the characters are drawn with this gorgeous, vibrant art style that heavily evokes the aesthetic of Hyperdimension Neptunia, which is personally a plus for me, as well as some incredibly fluid and expressive live 2D for our main characters, Herb, and the Commander. It's a shame that the side characters, Nicola, Tidal, Sweet, and Pincer, aren't animated in live 2D, but I can see that being a lot of work to do, and it probably would have pushed this game's release window back a bit further, so I can understand cutting some corners in that regard. They still possess lots of life and expression, but not as much as they could have if they were animated with live 2D. But again, I can see why this wasn't made a reality. And for my last talking point, yes, I know I don't have a lot of points, I'm going to focus on the gameplay. I've already said my piece about the overall aesthetic of the gameplay in my previous video, but to recap, I gushed about the art style quite a lot, being so reminiscent of the Paper Mario series. The flat cutouts of the characters and NPCs, the similarly arts and crafts feel to the designs of the areas you explore, as well as the vibrant and bright colors, all of which are defining aspects of the Paper Mario games' aesthetic. It really feels as though this game is being presented like a pop-up book, and it's a visually pleasing art style that I think anyone can look at and appreciate. So the game obviously looks pretty, but how well does it actually play? Well, there's quite a bit to unpack here, both positive and negative. As I've said before, this game is split into 10 chapters, each with its own set pieces and environments for you to play around in. The IL Mothership, the Arctic, a beach shore, a confectionery swamp, soda-filled plains, the underground of a sandcastle, the peaks of mountains in the interior of a volcano, a soda factory, and beneath the waves. Although not all of these locations are especially unique in the platforming genre, there's still plenty of variety to be had here. I especially loved the soda plains areas. Tossing soft mints into the soda to create fizzy geysers for you to stand on to progress through the level, that's honestly really creative. At the end of some chapters, you'll encounter a boss, each with their own arenas and gimmicks. All of these are pretty basic and follow the 3D Mario formula of waiting for the boss to do something that makes them vulnerable, and then attacking. Each boss takes 4 hits to defeat, with each hit causing the fight to become more hectic and dangerous. Sometimes a new gimmick will be introduced that you have to be cognizant of when you're in the arena, but for the most part, it just means that their attacks become faster and more difficult to avoid if you're not careful. After you defeat some of these bosses, specifically Ali, Venaria, Queen Tetera, and DJ Pincer, You're able to morph into them, which initiates a sequence that has you mashing the button as much as you can in a certain time limit to earn some bonus foil before the chapter ends. As a whole, the bosses are fine. They aren't harmful additions by any means. I just wish there was a bit more interaction to be had with them instead of waiting around for them to slip up and counterattack. The main mechanic that this game puts front and center is the shapeshifting mechanic. Since you're playing as a recon IOL, you've been trained and specialized in your shapeshifting ability, allowing you to transform into the creatures and people around you to gain access to their abilities. Think of it like the copy ability mechanic from the Kirby series. You're able to shapeshift into pretty much any creature you come across in this game, from tasty candy flies to flying spike-collared brown boys, to even some of the very bosses you'd defeat. Not a whole lot of entities in this game outright prevent you from transforming into them, with the exception of the NPCs in Chapter 5, as well as some very special enemies introduced in Chapter 10, specifically said by the commander to have some sort of anti-morphing encryption? How does that even work? Everything you're able to morph into has an ability for you to use to your liking. For example, transforming into the crab allows you to move faster, fit into tighter spaces you wouldn't be able to access normally, and a powerful spinning attack that damages enemies and slices through this, I guess, foliage that no other morph is able to break. Or by transforming into sweet, you can face an object to highlight it with a reticle. Pressing the action button afterward has you extend your tongue to grab onto and collect objects. Pressing the button without a reticle on the screen has you swing your tongue around like a mace to destroy obstacles and damage enemies. Each morph is used to either progress the level or help you find hidden collectibles, and they all serve as a great way to make the world feel more alive. We even get these neat little cutscenes for each morphable entity, helping to characterize even the enemies in some fun and cute ways. And some unfortunate ways as well. Poor fella. Not all morphs are unique, unfortunately. The Ogre and Iron Brute morphs share the same mechanic of throwing an object out to orbit around you a few times, which destroys objects, specific obstacles, and damages enemies. The Nakbots, Sickly Pops, and even Nicola share the mechanic of shooting out a ring of either electricity or soda, which again destroys objects, obstacles, and damages enemies. Essentially, the Iron Brute, Sickly Pop, and Nicola morphs are all reskins of morphs you've already come across. This makes the actual variety of morphs feel homogenized, as the abilities and their uses in the levels are essentially the exact same, with the only difference being the way the levels progress from those moments onward. There are some other overlaps, such as the crab and the soda fish, but I think I've made my point clear. The morphing mechanic is fun and provides some neat set pieces for you to play with, but it's held back a bit by not having more unique abilities for some of the morphs. At least Tidal and Sweet have their own abilities, so that's pretty nice. Along your adventure, you'll almost always come across these pickups called foil. Like I've explained in the previous video, foil serves as this game's currency, which you collect a ton of over the course of the game. You can use this currency to buy costumes for the playable characters, including Herb, as well as optional cutscenes you can view in the scrapbook. While this is the only use foil has, this isn't its only purpose. Within each chapter, there's a set of 3 objectives you can choose to complete. Completing an objective rewards you with a medal, and collecting all 3 medals in a chapter will award you with a special costume for the character featured the most in said chapter. So Chapter 2 would have a costume for Ember, Chapter 3 has a costume for Light, Chapter 4 has one for Penny, and so on and so forth. While collecting every costume isn't part of 100%ing the game from an achievement standpoint, collecting all of the medals is required. The objectives for these medals remains the same in every chapter and are as follows. 1. Collect 20,000 foil. I'm not sure if this accounts for the total foil you collect in a chapter, but so long as you have 20,000 at one time, you'll get the medal. 2. Collect the 5 souvenirs scattered throughout the levels. The souvenirs are unique collectibles distinct from foil, as they're usually hidden in places you have to go out of your way to find, or by locking them behind specific morphs or items you have to find first. Each chapter has a different souvenir relating to the current setting. For example, Chapter 2 has snow globes as the souvenir, while Chapter 3 has seashells, and Chapter 4 has gingerbread men. None of these are particularly hard to collect, but they are a fun optional thing for you to do if you're going for 100%. Number 3, don't die. This one's pretty self-explanatory, just get good. These are pretty fun to go for, especially the souvenirs, as they really encourage you to explore the world and hunt for secrets, not unlike the Paper Mario series that it's drawing inspiration from. However, I find that replaying chapters in order to collect a medal you couldn't get on your first run to be pretty tedious. Because you aren't able to skip the cutscenes that occur in-game, It slows your progress significantly and drags out what would otherwise be a fairly simple and quick process. Hopefully this gets resolved through some sort of patch in the future that allows you to skip the cutscenes through a toggle. Now, you'll notice that I said chapter medals specifically. Why is that? Well, in the very same scrapbook where you can purchase costumes and additional cutscenes, you can also help yourself to 10 challenges, all specializing in a specific morph. For these, you play as Herb, and the goal of these challenges is to reach the finish line within a time limit. These aren't particularly complicated. They do feature some unique level design, but that's about all they have to offer. They're quite easy, and there are even these hourglass pickups that will add seconds to your time, allowing you to complete them under a more lenient time limit. Completing these challenges will award you with some foil at the end, as well as a green medal. However, these medals aren't required for 100%, and are more or less just a trophy of sorts showing you completed the challenge. It's not much, but hey, extra content is extra content. Although, I do wish these were more, no pun intended, challenging, and really tested your skills with the morphs in question. It would have made for a more thrilling and enjoyable experience, in my opinion. An example I came up with as I was writing this and gathering gameplay footage is a bunfly challenge, where you have to precisely time your hover dashes to pass through corridors of thorny vines, as well as interrupting your hover dash partway through it to fall down some holes of sorts to make progress. The game isn't shy to doing stuff like this. After all, in Chapter 4, you do some precise bunfly maneuvering in order to collect one of the gingerbread men. Or if you're good at timing your spin attack jump, you can do it without the bunfly, but that's a different thing entirely. On top of that, using the bunfly to bypass some vines was also featured in Chapter 4, towards the path of one of the gingerbread men, so the pieces are right there for a more engaging and mechanically interesting romp. Just some stuff like that to make it feel as though you're really being tested by the game. As a whole, I find the gameplay to be enjoyable and fun to play through, with some flaws that don't make it a perfect package. Each chapter has its own location and set pieces, making them stand out from one another, and the bosses are fun cherries on top that I think could have used a bit more interaction to make them that much more fun. The morphing mechanic has a great foundation, but ultimately doesn't reach its full potential due to having morphs that overlap in function, resulting in less variety. Foil and the chapter medals are fun to collect, but the lack of cutscene skipping in the levels themselves makes replaying chapters to collect said medals more tedious overall. And lastly, the challenges are neat side content, but I think they could have used a bit more difficulty added to them to make it more worth your time, especially since it isn't required to 100% the game. And there you have it, folks. I've discussed everything that I wanted to surrounding this game. I said my praises as well as my criticisms, and have hopefully given you a good idea as to what to expect from this game should you choose to buy it and play it. With that in mind, what are my thoughts on the game overall? Despite some of my gripes with it, I think this is a great game that's totally worth your time. It might be relatively short, but I don't think that's a bad thing at all. It's simply a fun experience that doesn't waste your time. Characters are great and super lovable, the story is simple but will keep you engaged, and the gameplay loop is fun with a fair amount of variety in its locations, set pieces, and mechanics. While there are a couple of hiccups along the way, as I mentioned before, I don't think that makes this game any less than good, in my opinion. So, if you've got the time and money, give this game a shot. If nothing else, you'll be supporting Mr. Rolling Circle, the creator of the game, and that alone is a positive since they've spent so much time and effort into this project. But anyway, that's all I've got for you all today. It's been a little bit since I've uploaded something, so if you don't mind, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel and all that YouTube stuff I keep mentioning at the end of my videos. So, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all on my next upload. Peace!